Everyone, welcome to another edition of Shooting the Breeze. I am your friendly neighborhood soda, as always, with my co-host, Ben Rayner. And we are joined once again for the third time, I believe. This is our second three-time guest. None other than Alex Shashek from over to Call to Action. How are you doing?
Good. I'm sitting all fancy with my Orangina, so I'm all set to go.
Sorry, what brand is that?
Orangina.
I've never seen that up here.
Really? It's a pretty popular drink all over, but I'm sure some stores, I guess it's more of a specialty item in some stores, but
maybe.
Literally 50 cents at my grocery store.
Oh, no.
It's a sparkling orange juice, and it's really, really yummy.
Oh, that does sound good. When I was living in Vancouver, like a lot of the mom and pop stores, they would go to like Seattle and stuff, and then bring back and sell that type like cherry Coke and stuff like that in their store that we couldn't get in Canada. But yeah, anyways, this is our weekly chat show, and before we went on air, we were actually having an interesting discussion on movies and military. And Alex, if you wouldn't mind discussing why you weren't allowed to watch certain movies when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, Benny, I think it comes down to, I think we kind of hopped on the subject regarding movie challenges. Now, if you don't know, I actually am one of the big people that's involved with the C2A Discord chat. So if you're on Patreon, that's something you want to do, check it out, definitely. And on Discord, we do these C2A movie challenges where essentially I challenge someone else to watch a movie. And if they finish it in X amount of time, they can challenge, they can make two challenges for someone. Ben could challenge you and I, Soda and I, to watch two movies of their choice, essentially. But it just came down to a lot of, became obvious that there's a ton of action adventure movies that I have not seen. A lot of major ones from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And there's a lot of reasons behind it.
Well, let's get into the one we were talking about before, Con Air. Now, that is a 90s movie about a Green Beret. None of the movie makes sense. I will full on admit that. But you said that was one you didn't watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There in terms. Okay, so the 90s in particular have a very interesting relationship in terms of producing a certain level of campy action adventure films, such as Face Off, Speed, Con Air as well. So they're very meta in their own way, which I really appreciate. I love me some meta movies. Hello, Scream. Hey, what's up? But that movie in particular, that was a movie that my brother and I were not allowed to watch in particular. Now, the reason is because that movie, the reason why he goes to prison essentially is because he's defending his wife, right? And he is, I can't remember I don't know if he's a retired military man or he is in the military.
He's
just been discharged. Yeah. But he gets sent to prison because he should have known better, because his body is a weapon. And his body is a weapon because he was trained in the military. Now, that's a little bothersome to me because that's not only because that's not true. That's not the way the American law system works. But on top of that, I am military bred. I lived on military bases my entire life. I grew up around Marines. I grew up around pilots and a lot of different military specialists my entire life. And my dad didn't want me to have this idea as a child to associate that world, that kind of gore, that kind of violence with something to be admired. And he didn't want my brother and I, very impressionable little kids at the time, to look at Con Air and be like, yeah, my body is also a weapon. and let's face it, if you are in the military, your body's not a weapon because it was trained by the military. That's not the way it works. So it's very frustrating when someone tries to describe that to me.
Yeah, like that movie, a lot of that stuff makes no sense because he's a Green Beret, but I mean, like, he just randomly kills these two drunk dudes. Just like,
well, they were not just trying to. They weren't just killing him. Like they weren't just like drunken.
well, no, yeah, they were obviously
they were like pulling a gun on him. They were like they were trying to assault his wife. They were trying to, I believe, sexually assault his wife. And he's like, hey, dudes, please, we're just trying to get to our car. We just want to go home. And the guys are like, no, fuck you. We just want to rape your lady. And we want to beat you to a fucking pulp because it's the 90s. And whatever.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, some part of that just to me seems a little unbelievable, the whole thing. But that's just me. But then again, the whole movie the whole movie is stuff that's just unbelievable.
Is this the one in John Cusack?
Yeah, that's the one he apparently hates talking about. Yeah, he's the federal agent that works with Nick Cage, but he's got on record saying he will never talk about the making of that movie. Apparently, he hates it. Yeah. Yeah, apparently it wasn't a fun experience for him, and there's a whole bunch of issues, like they didn't know what they were going to be filming that day, there wasn't a script ready, like, sounds like very typical 90s stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some other movies that, because of that, like you had said you were allowed to watch the first Rambo movie, but not the other ones. What were some other ones like that your dad tried?
Yeah. Well, we were allowed to watch the first Rambo film. Okay. And the thing is, also something to remember is that my brother and I, being the age that we would really have this idea, like we didn't really understand what was considered the fantasy elements, the ridiculous aspect of it. And Con Air, I wouldn't be able to understand as a 6-year-old the fantasy elements, the ridiculous element when it comes to Con Air. I would have looked at that and be like, that's the way it is for people that are discharged in the military, Dad.
Yeah.
Not knowing any better.
Yeah.
Dad. And all my friends and family that have been in the military. Is that you? Are you, Dad, is your body also a weapon? Like, Dad would be like, fuck, damn it. I'm being so impressionable, but also movies, one of the big one was Rambo. So we were allowed to watch that movie when we were a little bit older. We were like, I think it was like 10 or 11. And my dad saw beforehand, and he's like, okay, you have to go into this knowing X, Y, and Z. However, he approved only the first one. We were not allowed to watch any of the sequels because my dad, and he retired from the military after 25 years, he said the sequels were different from the original one because the sequels really glorified this violent lifestyle, but also fetishized this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of white man going into a jungle, and usually in Southeast Asia, and where not only it was just like a white man just saving the day, essentially, but also it's the way it would go about how it would handle those problems was not correct. It was not really a good way to showcase people in the military, and he said, and it wasn't correct the way people would suffer through that, because a lot of those experiences, people would walk away with PTSD. They would walk with really awful life-changing injuries, and they're really making it seem like that it's a cool casual thing in this movie, in those sequels. But I have not seen it, and that was just my dad telling me that, so I just didn't grow up with them. But maybe my dad is just completely exaggerating it.
Not completely, because he is correct in a way that it does. You're right. It does in a way fetishize all this stuff, and everything you said is pretty much correct. It's one man going in and ending Vietnam, like that. No, like it just doesn't. It's just essentially a reason for him to go kill people is all it is, and that's basically, you could argue all of them are, and 4 and 5 get way gorier than the other ones. Like those
unnecessarily.
Unnecessarily. Oh yeah, I call the 5th one, Last Blood, I call it Taken on steroids, because it's the same type of plot. He's got to go find somebody, bring her back, but he like rips people's throats out and hearts. It's like, that's
Well, when it comes to violence in movies, I love adventure. I love action. Oh, significantly, I'm very much late to the party in terms of the genre because I didn't grow up with a lot of these movies. But also, I thing is, I don't like I don't like violence in a movie with no purpose. If there is going to be violence in a movie such as Predator, I love Predator. Oh my gosh, do I love Predator. But it's very purposeful. Everything in that movie is very purposeful. The way I love actually I really enjoy that movie for a million different reasons, and its depiction of military and PTSD, and you can argue it's more of a Vietnam movie, or you can argue a lot of different things. But but its depiction of violence is very necessary, where it's not fetishized. It doesn't make it seem cool. Like you don't like you're watching this movie and you're not thinking to yourself, I want to go live in that world. No. Like fuck that. You're just like, you do your own thing. I'm gonna hang out here. Versus like in a movie, in theory, from what I've heard in Rambo, you kind of want to join in. It looks fun. Like you want to rip out someone's jugular.
Yeah. The first one, not so much.
Mortal Kombat style.
Yeah. The first one does not look like fun, but the other ones, yeah, I can definitely see like people, like kids, especially growing up, playing like I'm Rambo, you're the guys, I'm gonna shoot you, sort of thing. Like, yeah, it's not exactly the type of movie you want to show young impressionable people.
Well, I have a question. Were you allowed to see Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen it. I don't like it.
Oh, okay.
Credits. My dad actually think that's actually an interesting one, just because my parents were much more flexible in terms of action and violence, in terms of fantasy or sci-fi. And if it's a movie like Rambo, where in theory it's based in reality, that's very, very different. It's like a slasher versus like a paranormal horror movie.
Yeah.
It's different. One's based in reality, one's not. And so like Starship Troopers, my brother loved that movie. And my dad actually really liked it because he thought it was actually in many ways a kind of a pretty darn close, accurate depiction of how the propaganda aspect as far as recruiting young people into the military. Yeah, especially when they're really, really young. I remember recruiters coming into my middle school. Not to like bring in, but they would hand up pamphlets, be like, yeah, when you graduate high school, just want to let you know. We know right now you're in 8th grade, you're thinking about your future, kinda, just for dropping off some pamphlets. See, the military is cool. So they're dropping some breadcrumbs. But oh my gosh. But my dad actually thought that was actually a really interesting and pretty on point depiction of the recruiting process, especially for young people going into the military.
Yeah, the propaganda on that is so on the nose. And then when I saw it, I saw it just last year, and I didn't really know anything about it, oddly enough. So when I got in and I realized, oh shit, these guys are the Nazis. Like, what the hell? I think it's Mark
Andreyko's favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was when NPH walked out in his stormtrooper gear, and I was like, holy shit.
I can't remember her name. Denise Richards.
Yeah,
she's absolutely stunning in that movie. I was like, I've never had feelings for a lady, but I do right now. What is this feeling?
Denise Richards at that time was one of the.
She's gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What movie was it when she was a nuclear physicist?
Tomorrow Never Dies, the second one that Pierce Brosnan's.
Oh yeah. Actually, it's funny you say that. My parents loved that movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My parents actually really liked the James Bond movies. In theory, they are based in reality, but the thing is, my mom is Asian. My mom came directly from a itty bitty village in northern Thailand, and my mom and my grandma were huge fans of Michelle Yeoh. And Michelle Yeoh keep in mind, 2001 is one of my 2001 is one of my favorite movies of all time. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out. Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
I think it's actually nothing, but I think it is Tomorrow Never Dies. But it's Michelle Yeoh plays like a Bond girl. I don't always say Bond girl, but she's a female equivalent to James Bond for the Chinese government, and she is kick-ass. But my parents were like, this is like one of the only times that I could see like female Asian stars on the big screen. My mom's like, you need to see this.
Yeah, I can only imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Bond was something that never played in my house growing up, ever, nor my grandparents. I think I saw my first. What was the first James Bond movie I saw? I think it was Tomorrow Never Dies was the first one I saw, but yeah, it was definitely not something that.
Not Goldfinger?
No, I've never seen any of the old Roger Moore or Sean Connery ones. I've seen all of Dalton's, I've seen all of Barbara Brosnan's, and I've seen all of Daniel Craig's.
Oh man, that just hurts my heart.
Yeah.
One of those movies are streaming up here in Canada, so I can't really get on that.
A few years ago, I bought the whole collection on DVD, and I just found through the whole thing with a friend. And there's some fun movies in that. And I think my favorite is Goldfinger and GoldenEye.
Oh yeah, GoldenEye is a good one.
GoldenEye is one of my favorite video game movies of all time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't know if it's technically a video game movie, but it's the video game came afterward, but still.
Oh yeah. No, I remember days sitting at my friend's place playing multiplayer and getting really pissed off at the bots because they wouldn't die.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What was I about to say? Yeah. So I guess what it sounds like is your parents prefer movies that veer more into reality, that paint things in positive light at that time. Am I safe to assume that? Can you guys hear me?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know if anyone can see me or hear me, but everyone's lips and the sound is off, so I don't know, not sure when to go. And there's the screens were black for a second, so I thought it was my connection. So I was like,
You're good.
You're good now.
Quiet for a minute until I can actually see people.
No, you're good now. What I had asked was, it sounds like your parents wanted you to watch movies that, I guess, more closer to reality, it sounds like, when it comes to depiction of real life events or groups or whatever.
Well, in terms of violence, just because obviously being in the military, we were surrounded by, we had a lot of friends that really loved playing games where they would pretend to be violent, essentially. And my parents were like, no, you can't. And also my mom is essentially a product of the Vietnam War. And so if we were watching a movie like, say, Apocalypse Now,
oh yeah,
we would have neither of my parents would want my brother to be like, you are not going to pretend you're a soldier in Vietnam or in Thailand or in China or anything like that, where you're killing people. Like, we don't want you to create this idea for yourself where you're a hero in this situation, because in this situation where literally our extended family have died in these situations. So we don't want to create that association. Now, we were allowed to watch, my parents loved a lot of war movies, such as All Quiet on the Western Front. It's actually, to this day, it's actually one of my favorite war movies of all time. It's the original one from, I think it's like 1928, 1929. Beautiful movie. My parents loved Patriot with Mel Gibson.
I love that movie too. Yeah.
It's a great movie. And I think one of the big differences is that movie is really I feel like it's really great in terms of going about war and everything, but at the same time it's not glorifying it. You're not like, yay, awesome, you're stabbing someone in the eyeball with a sword. Like that's not like you're not happy violence is going on screen because people because in the previous scene like literally 500 people were killed in a church and they were burned alive.
That,
So,
that scene makes me angry every time.
God,
I hate Tabbington for that.
oh God, it hurts.
Yeah.
But
and then this character in that movie at one point says, when it comes to Fort Wilderness, I hear their screaming voices every night. I close my eyes. So you can tell they're also playing like this affects you in a way.
It does. And going about the positives, yeah, obviously Revolutionary War, this is America, obviously that's something we very much need to know. But also we don't want to idealize it in any way. We need to be realistic about what happened, and also we don't want to be in a situation where we were like, oh my gosh, the British were right. Like, so my parents were actually really liked having that movie playing for sure. When talking about war movies in particular.
Yeah, that's one I saw when it came out on VHS. So I've been watching that one since I was a young kid. My family, oddly enough, never really had restrictions. Like obviously I wasn't able to watch anything like hard R or whatever, but yeah, like I was watching like raunchy teen comedies when I was 6. My mom would watch Child's Play when I was 3, which gave me nightmares till I was in my teens.
You're kind of like my husband then.
Yeah. Well, with that one, I've said this story several times, but basically I saw the VHS cover with the doll on it, and I begged my mom to let me watch it. And she finally gave in and let me watch it, and then years later, I was still having nightmares, and that's when I found out about this. I was like, why did you do that?
Similarly, I remember watching a movie that freaked me out. One of the first horror movies I ever saw. I was maybe 10 or 11, one of those two. And I saw Jeepers Creepers for the first time.
I can imagine.
Now, it was like, and that was like the first horror movie. I saw, a few years later, I saw Alien. I love Aliens, my favorite movies of all time. Another one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. Yeah. But that was like the first true horror movie I saw. And now we have a lot of negative associations with it, obviously, with the director. Yeah. But that movie, Jeepers Creepers, the idea of it, like the lasting visuals where the guy had it like just a monster kid's eyes drilled and everything, and you just hear his screams. That visual just haunted me for years.
I can imagine.
Oh God!
I haven't seen it, and now I don't want to see it.
Don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. I feel very conflicted. When it comes to watching movies, that I understand their relevancy and their just overall impact. Like obviously, it's not a major. It's no Texas Chainsaw Massacre in terms of franchise, but it's a very notable franchise that's been like 6 sequels. So
yeah, it's definitely a cult franchise of horror for sure.
Yeah, but the director, he has since. He's still alive. He was convicted for raping children, and he ended up being in prison and having child pornography.
It's not a woman who asked me.
No. It's a Hispanic director. That's all. I can't remember his name, and I think he's still working too.
Mm-hmm. That's another conversation.
Yeah,
I heard that. I'm like, that's not cool.
It's really weird. Like on one hand, I want to recommend it. On the other hand, I know that even if you saw it for free, something like on Tubi or Vudu or something like that, it's because those streaming services paid those creators to have it on their platform. Yeah. And so by extension, I just don't like knowing they could get even pennies from me to some degree.
I get it. Like,
his name is Victor Salva. Yeah.
Not
a good dude. Luckily, he hasn't done much. But yeah, what about you, Ben? What was it like for you growing up? Was there anything you weren't allowed to watch or what have you?
It was pretty easy where I live, but I I'm a wuss, so I haven't seen a lot of horror movies until recently. And even though I have some of them, like I want to see A Quiet Place 2, I have to wait until Paramount Plus to watch it. Yeah, I can't see that in the theater. The noises freak the hell out of me.
So what's a wild trip is watching the first Get Out with new parents. That's a trip because
Get
they
Out?
yeah
No,
not Get Out,
Quiet
sorry,
Place.
Quiet Place. Watching Quiet Place with new parents is a trip because
Oh my
they're
gosh,
just like freaking out over everything.
I saw the movie Get Out for the first time in February, and I didn't watch it for until then because I knew everything going into it. I knew all the cameos. I knew the ending. I knew all the individual scenes. I knew everything about that movie. But there was a few things that I was not prepared for in terms of especially the small moments.
Mhm.
And so I was like, and also that, and there's, I feel like when it comes to a lot of movies, I feel like there's very few movies that, especially horror movies or thrillers, that can be so bright and colorful and still be a horror movie. Like Midsommar, like how many, or let's see, or the Wicker Man.
Yeah,
The
they're
Wicker Man.
The original and the remake.
Day, or at least majority of it takes place during the day. So, and this freaks me the fuck out.
yeah. There's not that many movies that take place, horror movies that take place during the day. That's for sure.
Well, there's when it comes to horror movies, there's I remember Guillermo del Toro. He did an interview once talking about why he films his movies a certain way, and he's like, you look at a lot of great movies, such as, and he has mentioned Wicker Man is like one of his favorite movies, or Village of the Damned, and he's like, that's not a great movie. But in terms of aesthetics, it's a very bright and colorful movie, and because it creates this feeling of false, you're like almost it's like, yeah, I can't remember what the word is, but you're comfortable, but it's like false comfort essentially.
Yeah.
To create this idea that you're okay, but in reality you're not.
Yeah.
What do you want, cat? Can you hear that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I don't know. He has food. He has water. Explain that. I have no idea what he wants.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's a good horror movie that takes place during the day?
What?
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh,
He is a murderer.
No, I can't.
He's a murderer. He wants to kill those kids.
So, I went to Catholic school up to grade 7th grade. So we got in trouble for watching Men in Black. We weren't allowed to watch Harry Potter. Like, I don't even think they're still allowed to teach Harry Potter in that school. But for some reason, they let us watch the first Willy Wonka movie.
Yeah. That's always scary.
Yeah, it's like the ones you don't think are inappropriate are the ones that you think are not. It's like, come on, guys, get your act together.
That thunder scene freaks me out every time I watch it.
Yeah, it's a creepy movie.
Let's see. Okay. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was. Okay. So there was a series of in the early 1800s, late 1700s. I have no fucking clue. What is time? I don't know. But there is this puritanical reverend dude that was sent to prison, and he was in prison for like 18 years or something in this small town somewhere here in the US. And he created this story. I can't remember what it's called, but he, along with this story, he created these fantastical drawings to go up that went along with it. And it's about this man that's trying to go from his horrible situation on Earth with like 50 kids and a very sad wife to somehow ascend to heaven. and he's going, and he was like, and these two angels was like, bro, Jesus wants you, come up here. and he's like, but you need to go on this really treacherous journey in order to ascend to heaven. And this guy's like, sure, bruh, let's do it. Let's fuck the wife and kids. I want to do it. And so he goes on this, there's one where he travels through a mountain, essentially, where if you take one and there's like this path underneath where it's like it looks where on one side is this deep trench with nothing but bodies at the bottom, and the other side is filled with hot molten tar, and you have to, and there's ghosts and spirits and demons whispering to you the entire time to make one false step, and you're in pure darkness. And it's really scary. And things I don't know. I can't remember. But thing is, we watched. It was like one of those movies. It was like an audiobook where they played the images to go along with it. Yeah. And I was in second grade.
Oh, okay.
And it scarred me. I remember being in second grade, walking up in the middle of it because it was like 4 or 5 days long. And we would watch like 2 hours worth every single day for those 5 days. And I would go up to my teacher, Miss Weatherford, and I'll be like, this is too scary for me. Can I just go sit in the library? And she's like, sure.
Wow.
But I just, there's so many of the specific images just freaked me the fuck out. And just, and when he was like inside that mountain where he's like, oh, there is a light, I see a light, oh, I'm near the end of this one mountain, which is like part 1 and 10 of this journey. It turns out it's just this big old fiery pit that's like terrifying, where people are, it's supposed to be reminiscent of like Satan and like
this wasn't Dante's Inferno, was it? This wasn't Dante's Inferno by chance.
No, it wasn't. It was not. And I was just like, and he runs into, he comes across these two guys that are right outside of town, and they're trying to tempt him to come into town, and where it's going to be, life is so much easier, but their names are something like greed and sodomy or something like that. Oh, God.
I feel almost like I was sheltered growing up compared to you. Like, holy shit.
And I was at a Christian school. I was at a private Christian school.
Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
It was in Oklahoma, so, you know.
Okay, that's.
But I kind of like, I remember when I was like a little bit after college, I remember I remembered a lot of things from it. I had random flashbacks from it, and I was like, I will find out what it was. And I find out what this is, and I will watch it, and so I will be like, "Fuck, this is out of my system," and I won't. But I found it, and it's just re-traumatized me. And I'm like, I don't want to watch. I want to do it myself. It's so scary.
Yeah, no, definitely had none of that at Catholic school, but I did, like I said, we watched Men in Black one day, and one of the students complained to her mom, and we were no longer allowed to watch PG movies.
What a puss.
Men in Black?
Men in Black. Yeah, this would have been like 19, yeah, it should have been like 98, 99. Yeah.
I love Men in Black.
Mm-hmm. It's, yeah. Oy. What about you, Ben? What did they show you in school?
I'm trying to think. My favorite movie that I watched in school, Dante's Peak, starring Pierce Brosnan about a volcano.
Yeah, I never saw that one in school.
I don't remember why we watched that. Yeah.
Dante's Peak? Oh my, I love Dante's Peak. That's a father-daughter movie actually in my house.
Nice. I've never seen it. That's one I've missed. 8th grade is when I saw Independence Day for the first time. The social studies teacher got us to watch that. That was fun. And that's actually how I saw Pirates as well. Pirates of the Caribbean. That was we were in the auditorium and they just projected it on the wall, and that's the first time I saw that movie.
I don't even know the first Pirates movie. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. They're I'd say they were all worth watching to a degree.
Okay, y'all. I have it. I know what it is now. It's Pilgrim's Promise.
Pilgrims.
Okay, sorry. Pilgrim's Progress. Sorry, I stand corrected. And I don't know about the original images, but it's 100% that one. Because fuck that book.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I would never.
Sorry, off topic. I apologize.
That's no problem. Yeah, it's not something I would ever watch. Maybe if they did it. Well, no, not read. I might watch it if they did it into a movie.
Oh god, so scary.
Who's in it? Is there anybody of note in it?
I'm sorry?
Who's in it?
I don't know if there was a movie.
Oh.
There we go. Oh, Jesus, the long list of stuff. There was a CGI film released in 2019.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely not it. Definitely not it. No, I'm trying to find pictures of it as we speak because I just want it because I feel like if I don't look it up, I'm gonna totally forget it.
Oh, this is definitely the book, but it sounds like they might have watered it down to do that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything for a movie.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. All right, I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna put it in the private chat.
Okay. There was.
Okay, so this is a video.
Okay.
But I just want you just to look at some of the pictures that came along with it.
Okay, I will bring it up. I've got it open.
Oh, sorry?
I said I will bring it up. I've got the thing open.
Oh god.
I'm sorry, Alex.
In the city.
I want to see. I wanted to see if there's like some of the darker images that go along with it, but.
Sprinkle the floor whereon you stand. At once
no, but it looks like a crucifix right to this one. Yeah.
I like the music that's playing, the chosen music that goes along with it.
Yeah, there's
and Christian side.
There's nothing. Wow.
As he started out on his journey.
But oh gosh. Yeah.
We can sleep soundly tonight. So what about your husband? Is he like jaded towards movies like this? Does he have any movies that scare him like us? Or
he has a very weird relationship with movies growing up. Like his mom took pride in the fact that when she was pregnant with him, that she read the book It like 4 times, and I'm like,
wow, 4 times in a 9-month span. That's pretty impressive.
She's a reader. She's quite a reader, but she like would take him because he's like right around my age, and she took him to see a bunch of horror movies in theaters when he was really young. Like he saw Blair Witch Project in theaters when he was 9.
I will say on the record, I do not like that movie. I think it's stupid.
I would say I really enjoy the movie for what it is and for what it did and how influential it is. But I admit it's not a great movie. But yeah, he was 9. He saw that. He saw like a bunch of like he said he saw Silence of the Lambs in theaters when he was like 4 or 5.
Wait, how old is Lucas?
He's my age. Yeah. So he was 4 or 5 when he saw Silence of the Lambs in theaters.
So early 30s?
No,
he's 30s. Like 19. Okay, that makes sense. Because like Silence of the Lambs is like 1990.
Yeah, he was born in 1990. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I
believe Silence of the Lambs is 94, isn't it? Am I wrong? Or is that like 91, 92?
I thought it was. I thought it was around there. Hold on.
Oh, but regardless, he's seen a bunch of these 90s horror movies. 91, yeah, and he apparently he had the Tim Curry movie playing a lot when he was little.
So he's jaded pretty much at this point.
He's not so much jaded. He looks back and he's like, "Yeah, I had a lot of nightmares, kid. I don't want to tell you." and he's like, "It doesn't bother me now, but when I was a kid, fuck clowns." But his mom apparently loved that book in particular, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know how she could have done that 4 times in 9 months. Like, I mean, I tried to do the audiobook and I stopped because it was 44 hours.
I don't know. I have no fucking clue.
That's funny. Ben, you're on mute.
What?
Ben's on mute.
Oh, Ben, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I'm sorry. I watched The Fly for the first time a few months ago.
Ugh, I don't.
That's not a horror movie. I don't know why I thought that was a horror movie, but it's
not. It is a horror movie. It is a horror movie. That is
You're not as much of a wuss as you think you are, Ben.
I hated that movie. I don't like that movie as an adult, and I didn't like it as a kid.
Yeah, I've seen enough of the movie pictures and clips and stuff to know that I do not want to watch that movie because I that's like one thing I do not like in movies is body horror like that. Like, I mean, I'm fine with like a slasher movie if you get cut, whatever, because I know how that's all made stuff. But it's the body horror, the transformation stuff that just creeps me the fuck out.
Okay, I just want to double check. We're talking about Silence of the Lambs, right?
No.
Which one?
Yeah.
We are one. Okay. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I have a really different relationship with that movie in particular because when I was 11 or 12 years old, I joined a book club with my mom and her med school friends, and we read through the Hannibal Lecter series.
Oh, okay.
when I was 10 or 11.
Jesus.
But those books never bothered me much. I love it. That's my favorite book from that series is actually Red Dragon. I love Red Dragon, and I reread that book like every other year. But my mom actually introduced me to my mom actually showed me the movie American Psycho and Silence of the Lambs when I was around that age.
Yeah.
Because my mom told me essentially these movies are important for you as a woman to watch.
Really?
In terms of my mom was like, because I believe American Psycho came out in 2001. Yeah,
it was 99, 2001, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and my mom was like, you need to watch this in particular because you might not understand fully right now, but this movie is important for women to watch because its portrayal of how men of a certain class in theory can get away with anything. And you need to know, and this movie was directed by a woman, and it's very purposely the way it's filmed and everything. It's a very feminist film. And my mom was like, you need to watch this, and maybe you don't fully understand it now, but you need to absorb the information right now and we can talk about it. And my mom felt the same way about Silence of the Lambs. Now,
that one's a little more obvious than American Psycho.
Well, and because my mom is also my mom's a surgeon, and my mom is like very much of the mindset where being a woman in a male-dominated field, she really bonded with the Clarice Starling character, obviously, and it was like a very much a bonding thing for us. And strong female character. She's smart. She gets through with her own merit. All this great stuff. In retrospect, obviously, there's a lot of transphobia in that film, and it's nothing but transphobia in retrospect. Obviously, it's still a guilty pleasure for me, but it's in terms of like the thriller, in terms of the genuine fear a lot of women have. I think that those aspects really translates well in terms of like thrillers, crimes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. The only time I've ever seen Silence of the Lambs, I was bored out of my mind. I was really bored.
Totally understand. Yeah. Totally get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I would have seen it
in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my friend brought me down, and while we watched it, it's like,
it's different for everyone. It was definitely a movie of the time.
oh, for sure.
If you're watching it now for the first time, I'm sure you're gonna have a very different feeling going about it versus like when it came out in the early 90s. It was like a huge deal.
Oh, for sure.
It was considered a feminist slasher thriller, and it was, not to mention Jodie Foster. Regardless of how you feel about the movie, she's fantastic.
Oh, 100%. I don't think there's in that movie at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
She's always good. Love her in that movie Contact.
Oh, I love Contact.
That's a weird one that they showed me when the year it came out, and I remember watching it at like 7, 8 years old, not knowing what the hell was going on. I just remember, why is she not wearing a shirt?
Yeah. It's not only it's one of my personally, it's probably one of my top 5 Matthew McConaughey movies personally, but it's also I remember my dad actually had me read the book because it was written by Carl Sagan.
Oh, I
did not know that. He had me read the book before watching the movie, and so I remember being like, again, 10 or 11 years old watching that movie. And I think it's a really great movie. I think it's really great how they expanded on some characters. They really amped up a lot of the feud essentially between the religious and scientific communities in the movie, which I appreciate in retrospect. And now, because in the book it's not highlighted all that much, it's like almost universally supported in the book. Versus in the movie, they talk about like Matthew McConaughey's character. He's not a pastor, but he's some kind of like he's there for as religious guidance. Like,
oh, okay. Like missionary. He's okay. It's a Christian philosopher. I'm on the Wikipedia page.
Whatever. He mentions just because we can doesn't mean we should. Like, what would this benefit? What would this do to our world if we were to do this? Like, what would happen to our world? Would it be for the better of our world population and all these societies if we were to say find out the origins of the universe? I mean, specifically with actual hardcore evidence, or if we actually were to meet our creator, or X, Y, and Z, like should we do this? And he asked those really great questions to really combat Jodie Foster's character, which is nothing but pure curiosity and wonder and idealization. So she doesn't ask those questions like, what negatives could it also bring to the world as well, which he asks. So I think it's really good back and forth.
I might be due for a rewatch that movie because it's a movie that, for reasons, just popped in my head as one that I know I've seen, but again, I saw when it came out, so it would have been 10. Yeah, I think I'm due for a rewatch of that one.
You know who's good in that is Kevin Busey's son. I forget his first name.
Jake Busey's in that?
Yeah.
Gary Busey? I don't remember Gary Busey. I know Angela Bassett's in it.
Yeah,
John Leonard,
William Fichtner. Rob Lowe's in it.
I forgot about Rob Lowe. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think you should rewatch it because, yeah, my grandparents, whenever I would sleep over, they let me watch red movies. I remember Fire in the Sky when they were into that, and they let me watch that. I could have been 5, and then they sit here watching an alien abduction movie.
Yeah, and not to mention, it's definitely one of my. Oh yeah, not kidding. In terms of the science behind it, I mean, like it's complete hokey.
Oh, for sure.
I appreciate. It's not so much about the actual science about it. It's just about the belief of what it could lead to, essentially, and rewarding the curiosity of people. Yeah. I think is always a good thing. I guess, movies.
It's also supposedly based on a true incident that actually happened.
Wait, which movie?
Fire in the Sky.
Okay. Had you met Contact?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, sorry, no, I had brought up Fire in the Sky. That was, like I said, I was 5 when that movie came out. My grandparents didn't watch it. Yeah. My grandparents are very weird. You walk in their house, and it's like religious stuff all over. they always pray, but they're letting me watch these movies when I'm a kid. My grandparents went to an Ozzy Osbourne concert in 2001. My grandma freaked out that he mooned her. It's like, you guys are a mystery to me, man.
My grandma, she's my little Thai grandma. She's like 5'1", and she's Thai, but oh my gosh, like she's so funny. But she's not super conservative, but she's from Texas, so she's like Texas conservative. And she has this like with beauty pageants and everything, and the greatest honor a girl can have is being a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
Okay. I get that.
You can be the president of the United States, but if you're a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, what's up? That's what matters. But my grandma in particular, she loves sci-fi movies. She loves Star Trek. She doesn't understand it fully. Like if I would bring up, who's your favorite villain? Khan, and she'd be like, what are you talking about? She doesn't fully understand it, but she loves watching it. Yeah. She'll like marathon like 5 movies in a day.
Wow.
And I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, Grandma, that's who I get all this my movie shit from. She loves watching Star Trek TV, the TV shows, Generations, and the movies, but she also loves old westerns like John Wayne westerns, like from way back when, and Texas obviously, but spaghetti westerns, and also what was it? Hallmark movies. So quite an eclectic.
Yeah, I got my love for movies from my grandparents too, because they're the first people I saw with a big movie collection. But yeah, like I said, some of the stuff my family has let me watch over the years, I question things. And when it comes to sci-fi, like my family enjoys sci-fi, yeah, but my grandparents and my dad, because my dad is their age, so my mom's parents. They're all convinced anything they see in a sci-fi movie is going to happen. So every time you watch a sci-fi movie, I sort of have to bring it up like, no, this is not real. Like, this is why you can't have flying cars. It's just like a constant science lesson every time we watch a movie.
It's sometimes sci-fi films, I love it when sci-fi films, they leave a lot to the imagination, just because you're not watching movies for a science lesson. You're not in for a chemistry lesson. You need to explain it just enough. But at the end of the day, there's a handful of movies, like say, Knowing, that Nick Cage movie. Going back to Nick Cage earlier, I actually really like that movie, Knowing, and there's this idea, it's like you're not supposed to understand it. And so it really not only really requires you to have a certain sense of curiosity going about it, but the man is a scientist. Like, the man's a scientist. He's a mathematician. He teaches like some kind of like astrophysics or something at MIT, and he's trying to figure this out. And so I don't feel as dumb watching it. And it's about alien technology, about the end of the world.
I know it's not alien, but do you like the movie AI?
I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite movies, John Williams scores of all time. I feel like the score itself is very underrated. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
The only thing I know about that movie is that it was Kubrick's last film, and Spielberg finished it. That's the only thing I know.
I don't. Did he die like mid-shoot, or did he die during the pre-production?
I think he died during pre-production.
Pre-production.
Because I know Spielberg did
very different movie.
add a few Kubrick-isms into that movie. You kind of meshed the two filmmakers together.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very beautiful movie. It also, there's tons of people on it, like Mary, what's her name? Not Mary Tyler Moore, Mary Louise Parker, is that her name? I think that's her name. Haley Joel Osment, Jude Law, tons of people are in that movie. I mean, John Hurt is in that movie. Tons of people. And but it's a really heartbreaking movie. But what I think is actually, or is that movie's incredibly heartbreaking about one computer that's trying to figure out if it's a person or trying to become a person while maintaining a lot of these emotions, complex emotions that are very aligned with humans. It's actually a very good follow-up to that movie. It's actually Bicentennial Man, I feel like, with Robin Williams.
Yeah, that's right. He is in both of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if I have seen that one or not.
Yeah. Because I feel like with AI, it kind of takes on this very somber ending where I don't want to say it's like you don't really know what's happening, because you do know what's happening, but you kind of you're sad at the ending a little bit. Versus in Bicentennial Man, it takes a very different ending. Your big takeaways regarding the characters and the messages very, very different. So
Bicentennial Man is great.
yeah.
I think I have seen that one, but that's another one. If I did, it was when it came out. So
it's a hard watch. It really is.
Yeah.
It's also kind of creepy.
I can imagine. Just Robin Williams with a robot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Ben, do you have anything you want to say?
Nope, I have nothing to add.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, we're pretty much coming up to the hour mark. It's funny, some of the movies that were around when we were growing up that we could get away with watching, and now it's just like they're the stuff we watch. There's no way kids are allowed to watch today.
Sometimes, I mean, some of them were. I don't know if I would put my 10-year-old, if I ever had a kid, I don't know if I would put them to watch American Psycho at 10, 11 years old. But, well, I did read the book at that age, but still.
I would introduce them to Tommy Boy, but I wouldn't introduce them to Sometimes They Come Back Again, which is a horror movie I watched when that came out as well. God, it was the first time I ever saw Hilary Swank. She was in that movie. I remember Alexa. You know who Alexis Arquette is, right?
The name sounds very familiar.
David Arquette's trans sister.
So his sister?
Yeah. Well, born a male, later on in life.
I don't know.
I just remember that was the first time I saw her, but this was back before the transition. So I remember after her transition happened, I was just like, wait a second. Like that actor was my first introduction to trans, and I didn't really know it. He was the villain of the movie. Yeah. Okay, so that pretty much brings the hour to the end. Alex, thank you very much for joining us, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Where could everyone find you?
I see it's actually right there at real_Alex Nike. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me being part of the Call to Action podcast, where I do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm actually in the process of trying to put together a rookie schmo bait tournament. Ooh. However, it's a lot of people, and there's a lot of stuff to do. So you have to be patient with me as far as like actually making announcements and solidifying dates, since there's a lot of people involved. But it's coming. Be patient. But yeah, find me on Twitter. I also host a show called Son of Bias with Video Drew, aka Drew Grant, and we dive into our personal movie biases. How can we breaking down those movie biases? There be for against a genre, a director, an actor, whatever it may be, and so we can really expand our movie horizons. So it's on Tuesdays at the Video Drew channel on YouTube.
Right on. And Ben, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at my Twitter at Ben_Rainer, and you can find me right here on the Video Studies Network every Tuesday on shooting, on Friday on recapping, on Saturday Get Ready, on Sunday Minnesota Takes, and Saturday on Mount Schmodown. This week they're covering Sam Levine. I'm not there this week. Not been me my refreshment this week.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm definitely watching some Sam Levine matches to catch up. And for myself, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me on all the shows Ben has said over on this channel. You can also find me over on Schmoes of the North, where we break down what happens during the week, weekly matches of the Schmodown. And that's also where Mountain Schmodown is also housed there Saturdays at noon. Right, Ben?
One.
Or is it 1? Saturdays at 1 for the shows of the North. Yeah, so definitely check that out. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, Schmoes of the North, Call to Action, where you can find all of us. And once again, thank you very much, Alex, for joining us. And we will see you all next week on Shooting the Breeze. Don't forget, everybody, stay sweaty and smash cancer.